Preview looks like you are live.
Okay, hey, welcome to the High Fancy Track at DragonCon. I am Jennifer, and I am the host of this panel, as well as the track director for High Fancy at DragonCon, which covers the Wheel of Time, amongst many other things. Hopefully, subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can see the rest of what we're offering this weekend as far as our virtual DragonCon. Um, so just to really quickly introduce my panelists, and I'm going to go in the order I see them on my screen. So the first one up is Tom. Tom, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do with the Wheel of Time fandom.
Sure. So, Tom DeSimone. I am Director of Guest Services at JordanCon. And I'm wearing one of our t-shirts from our past year right here, ShyCon. I'm also on the Watt Community Show, which is produced by DragonMount.com. Our lovely Jason, wherever he's floating around my head right now, is the proprietor of that. And I've been a member of the fandom since for I don't know, 20, what is it, 21, 22 years now? I'm proof that if you insert yourself in enough situations at these conventions with Wheel of Time people, they'll give you jobs to do stuff.
I mean,
Oh, and I also have a character in the books. I'm Bayard from the prologue of A Memory Light. I will always fanboy about that because Harriet read my chapter at JordanCon. I got goosebumps when I said it just now.
All right, and how about you, Jason? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Jason Denzel. Hello, and I run DragonMount.com. I've been doing that for 22 some odd years right now, I guess. And ever since I have been deeply mixed up in anything to do with the Wheel of Time franchise. Whether the franchise wanted me there or not, I've been in the mix. And so relevant to today's conversation, I have a background way back in 20 some odd years ago when I was in college. I did film school, and I used to do a lot of independent film and screenwriting. About 10 years ago, I was involved with the Red Eagle team that purchased the rights to make the Wheel of Time adaptations from Robert Jordan and his estate. And I was involved with them in writing treatments and figuring out how to adapt everything to go into at the time, a feature film. And so obviously those things didn't pan out, and that's okay because we are here where we're here. And I think it's awesome where we are here. And this is, I've said it so much on some of these other panels, and I say it so often these days, it's an exciting time to be a fan of this franchise. And I'm delighted that we are seeing this come to the TV screen. Also, I have my own series of books through Tor Books, the Mystic Trilogy. The first two books of which are out. The third one is forthcoming. The first draft is done finally, and so I got all sorts of things going on.
All right. So just to kind of recap what we already know about the show. We know that the show was, the rights to the TV series were picked up by Sony, and they partner with Amazon TV to produce the series. We know that it's going to be 8 episodes for the first season. We think that it's covering the Eye of the World. There might be some things that come in from the second book, but the majority of the work is going to come from the Eye of the World, the first book in the series. We know that they've completed 6 of the 8 episodes. They had to stop filming because of coronavirus, but they did the post-production work on those 6 episodes, and they should be back to filming. Either they're already back at filming right now, or they're just about to start. They haven't really confirmed either way. But Amazon is super secretive about this. We know that most of the casting has been announced for the first season. There are still some roles that haven't been confirmed yet, like we haven't had Elaine and Gowan cast yet. So we don't know if they're going to show up this season or next season. We'll find out. But they did recently announce that they'd cast an actress for Min. All of the major characters from the Two Rivers, the Emmons Fielders, are all cast, as well as Moraine and Lon. And so is there anything else that people should know about the show before we get started?
Not necessarily that they should know per se, but I want to really briefly, if you don't mind, can we touch on that first thing you said about how the first season is going to cover the first book. That's been a hot debate on social media in the last week or so. And I've got an article from Adam Whitehead, who blogs for Dragonmount and writes about the TV adaptation. And he's got an article he sent me yesterday that's sitting on my desk, or my inbox anyway, talking about this exact topic. And so I need to get that up, but it's directly on topic to what you're talking about. And I think that, we don't know for sure, right? But if you read between the lines, and if you've been following along, and certainly for the stuff that's been officially announced, but even some of the things that are either rumored or don't necessarily make it, to the big headlines on the sites. But if you are a nerd like me who follows along and looks at all the stuff that is out there and being announced and what they're looking for, on the various extras information, on the sites that are casting extras and whatnot, what we can kind of put together is we are very, very, very certain that this first season, these first 8 episodes, are looking at events that ultimately, in one way, shape, or form, start in the Two Rivers and are going to end in the Blight. We are. I would be stunned if we were to get anything other than tiny little glimpses that look into, toward the second book. I mean, but this is. I think that ultimately, the story arc of season 1 is going to follow generally the story arc of of book 1. And I know that some of the titles have been missing, like there's a episode 5 or 6, one of them is called, the Flame of Tarvalon, which is the name of the episode, which is also the name of a chapter in book 2. So it's easy to leap ahead and think like, oh, there's going to, that's how far they are. I don't think that's the case. I think that this is something that the Lord of the Rings adaptation did too. They would take terms from different parts in the story and weave it around. So the Flame of Tarvalon is a great title. And if your episode is going to, have a big focus on Swan Sanche, perhaps in that episode, which makes sense because they've cast for that episode, then or they've cast that role, then I think we're looking at a scenario where they're using the title to reference it. It could be something where it could be the scene maybe where we know that there's going to be an expanded Logain storyline, so that could be an episode where he's gentled and the focus is on Swan Sanche having to make the hard decisions or maybe the easy decisions or whatever it is, and we're looking at her, and so that's a focus on her, and so that's why they named that episode that. But everything we look at, and Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, tell me what you think, but I think that that's everything we've seen is when you really get down to, other than the episode titles, really points to keeping the first season to the first book.
Yeah, I definitely agree that most of the stuff that we see is going to be from book 1, but I think we're going to see additions that aren't in any book. So, stuff that happened in the background, like you said, Swan Sanche making decisions at the White Tower. We know that they're going to feature Moiraine more as I don't want to say the main character of the show. She's not, even though the Vanity Fair article insists that she is. I think she's going to play a more pivotal role, and they're going to focus on her. And I think we're also going to get some stuff, maybe some like prequel stuff where they, go back seeing Swan and her and stuff, because we have Karine Nagashi cast as well, and she only appears in the prologue. So while when Moiraine is just raised and before she's raised, so I think we're going to get some stuff from there as well. But
that's a great point.
I mean, the Flame of Tarvalon is the Amyrlin seat. That's one of her titles. So like, it makes sense that if that's the first episode she appears in, then that's the name of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
It does have to be the first one that she.
Swan Sanche.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be the first episode that she appears in. It could just be an episode that where there's some character emphasis. Yeah, I do agree that we'll probably see some stuff from New Spring, and that makes sense. There's such a rich backstory there with that directly relevant to to Rand and his identity, and to Moiraine and her mission, which are obviously going to be centrally focused, and the idea of that that there's a dragon plaguing these lands, and why is there a dragon plaguing these lands, and so all these things. So there's a lot of all that stuff. The blood snow in I don't know if it's going to be in the show, but it would make a lot of sense. Also, the other thing is that we know we're going to see a lot of Tarvalon. Like if you take a step back and you ask yourself, like, if you're the filmmaker, right, put yourself in their shoes and you think about this, and you want to get not just the Wheel of Time, the existing Wheel fans, but you want to get as many people as possible to watch this show, right? Some of the things you're going to ask yourself are like, how do we engage? You're going to ask yourself, how do we engage a big audience? And one of the things that you can do is throw spectacle at it. And what is the biggest, most amazing, visually amazing, most interesting, cool, badass city location in Randland? And the answer is Tarvalon.
Yeah.
And so why not, we know there's all these Aes Sedai that have been cast. Why not have these things taking place in Tarvalon? Make Tarvalon the center focus.
It's going to be it's going to be like the King's Landing of, that's exactly what I was about to say. It's going to be the King's Landing of the Wheel of Time.
Also, like there's some benefit just to the show's budget to building the Tarvalon set so early, because if you build it early, you're going to want to use it as much as possible throughout the later seasons. That was something you saw in Star Trek: The Next Generation. They did not initially build the engineering room. And then they had to go back and rewrite the script for the first episode to include a scene where Picard walks through the engineering room, just so they had an excuse to build that set, because they knew if they didn't build it for the pilot, they would never build that set. And so they definitely wanted to make sure they had an engineering room.
That's funny. Now I want to go back and watch Next Generation really bad.
All right. The discussion about what's included in season 1 leads me to a good question that I had noted here. If they have season 1 be basically book 1, how many seasons realistically do you think we're going to get? I sincerely doubt they're planning 14 seasons. And I know that streaming services in general tend to not want to commit to as many seasons as perhaps a broadcast network would, because you're not bringing in new subscribers if you always have the same shows on. Like, you're maintaining your subscriber base, but you're not bringing in new subscribers. So they want to cut it off at some point so they can move that budget to something else that's going to be new and shiny.
Honestly, oh, my bad, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. So how many seasons do you think they're going to get?
I was going to say, honestly, I think we could see between 4 and maybe at the most 7. Like, this first season is going to be a lot of character building, like making us care about Moraine and Lan and Rand and Perrin and Egwene and Nye. They have to do a lot of character building with the main characters, where like season 3, yes, they're going to be introducing new characters, but it's not going to be as much character building for the main focused characters. So, I mean, if anyone's read the books, you know that Robert Jordan is a very descriptive person. 2 pages of a description of walking into, a palace can be condensed into 10 seconds of an episode. So, I mean, it's going to be on the set designers to do an amazing job, but which I'm sure Amazon's budget will be able to produce, but they'll cut down the show. So I'm sure later books will be able to be condensed into, multiple books into 1 season of a show. I think, at least.
Well, and I think we're going to see some storylines drop. Like, I think we can say goodbye to the kin and the sea folk, which is unfortunate because there's a lot of good stuff in there. But I think we're going to say goodbye to those subplots. Jason, what do you think about this?
Well, in terms of the number of seasons, obviously we just don't know, and I'm willing to bet that if Rafe Judkins, the showrunner, were sitting here in this panel and and we use compulsion on him to tell the absolute truth, he wouldn't know how many either. Like, I just suspect we just can't know because of of the business of how these things go. But that said, like, I think I don't think there's anyone who wants to see as few as 4, like you were saying, Tom. My gut tells me that if they had all their resources and everything else, and realistically we're looking at 7 or 8 seasons, something like that. If we're a major hit and people don't get burned out and all that, who knows, right? But 7 or 8 kind of seems right. And you're right that as they go along, each season is going to be trickier and trickier in terms of compressing the book, especially because it makes sense that your first season, stick to 1 book, and it's very linear, it's very straightforward. You've got a clear ending, clear goal. You do it to establish the franchise, get everyone settled in, and then season 2 is where you start blending, and maybe you start blending small, with again, I just don't know. But if I were doing it, I think the first questions I would ask myself, if I were in that writing room, would be, how do we kind of blend books 2 and 3 together? Like there's a lot going on there. And then that would make sense. And then season 3, you kind of kick off going off in the Aiel Waste, and anything to do with the Aiel, that whole journey there and back, is a season maybe. So there's your first 3 seasons. And then I don't know, maybe I'll start blending more and more and more as you go. But there's been all sorts of podcasts, all sorts of YouTube episodes from, some friends of ours and some really great podcasters and YouTube channels that talk about this and speculate on all the ways that you can break it down. And if you're into that, I highly encourage you check out the Dusty Wheel, check out Reading the Pattern. These are great channels that do exactly what we're talking about here. But one thing that I do think that we all need to keep in mind is there are no sacred cows when it comes to the books and the story. Like everything is, on the table to be changed. And I ruffled some feathers the other day on social media when I said something like, like for the season 2 example, if they are going to blend, books 2 and 3, like it's not unreasonable for us to get some drastic changes. Like maybe, Falm and the Stone of Tyr are somehow merged together. Like if you need to do that, maybe the Stone of Tears in Falm, maybe the Sanchin land at Tyr. We just don't know. You mentioned Kareen Sedai, Kareen Sedai, and how she's only in New Spring, and that's true. And that kind of hints that we'll see some, some New Spring content. But she could also be in the rest of the season too. Like she could, maybe she's just a cameo, maybe she's just in a couple flashbacks, or maybe she actually does survive. She's a present force in the, in the story of the Outworld in the main season. We just don't know. And I think this first season is going to be, even the first couple episodes are going to give us a clue really quickly as to how willing they are to not just change, but to adapt. How much are they going to take from other locations in the series and put it in front of the lens in a different time that we anticipate? So I think that's neat, and I know that some people are, there's a lot of purists out there, and I hear you, my friends. We all love these books the same, right? And these books are wonderful, and I've had people say, multiple people ask me, well, the books are so good, why do they have to change anything? And I get that sentiment, but I think that first of all, it has to change the medium, and it's too big of a topic to cover on this panel, but just it has to be, and you can Google it to see all the examples of why, but it has to change. And secondly, I think in some ways of all franchises, I think that the Wheel of Time lends itself to that. Think about it. Think of it as another turning of the wheel, right? This is the third age come again. Robert Jordan told the story and we got his version of it, so to speak. We see his, and now the wheels come around back in, the same events are happening, but it's just a little bit different this time. And if you look at it from that perspective, I think that's a great way that kind of makes you, at least it helps me to kind of think of like, this is just another telling and it doesn't diminish the books. Tom?
It's the same way with any of the book series that's been adapted. Harry Potter, the Hunger Games, they've all had changes, and it just I guess it comes down to everybody, individually, whether you can dissect the one from the other. Like there are things I really loved about the Harry Potter books and stuff I really loved about the Harry Potter movies completely separately, and things I didn't like that they cut from one or kept in and vice versa. And the same thing with like the Hunger Games. If they kept everything shot for shot from the Hunger Games, we would just have Katniss kind of staring at the sky with hearing, Jennifer Lawrence's voice disembodied for like 25 minutes of each movie. So that would have been weird.
Yeah, if we kept it like shot for shot, page by page with the Wheel of Time, season 10 would be nothing but the characters reacting to everything that happened in season 9.
Yeah.
You would never see the main character.
Right.
And so like that's clearly not going to happen.
and even out of the world, like, I love the book, and it's, it's iconic, of course, but, even if you watched yesterday's yesterday's panel, sorry, with the 30th anniversary of Wheel of Time, where I was on with Michael Livingston and Brandon Sanderson. Brandon was talking about, and he said this many times, is that the ending of the first book is not problematic. It's not Jordan's finest writing moments, and it's not to say it's still really cool, but there's some things that can be changed and cleaned up and improved upon, and done so in a loving way. If we were to adapt The Eye of the World straight up, there is those long slogging chapters where Rand and Matt are trudging through the Camelin road and stuff, and it's like that's an interesting shot or two. Like those chapters would be on film. You could do that in a scene or something, and so
you would have a montage,
right? Yeah,
and then walking.
Sure, that's
you could have a montage playing over it. Yeah.
And that can be done in a few minutes instead of a chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And other things to think about, like we all are going to be looking for those iconic moments. We're going to be looking for Rand to feel out of place amongst his peers once he gets a little more insight to his background. We're going to be looking for Nynaeve tugging her braid. Michael Livingston was talking about that yesterday. He's looking forward to that. Yeah, I mean that first braid pull, and we all are, right? We're looking for those moments. We're looking for those characters. But again, like it wouldn't surprise me if it's manifested in a way that's different from the books. Nynaeve's going to tug her braid. Like I can't see why she wouldn't tug her braid, but I think that we might get different scenes with her that aren't in the book. That she's still being Nynaeve, she's still tugging her braid, but maybe she's doing something that is completely invented for the show, or maybe something that replaces something else. You mentioned the eventually the sea folks and the sea folk and the kin. Maybe they'll have there was season 4 or 5 that we're talking about down the line.
Maybe you visit
but
the kin for an episode and they help them find the bowl of the
wind. It could be it could be to start off the first time seeing it could be an episode later on. But I was thinking specifically of the Tinkerers. Like we know that they're keeping small groups like that in there, which is great, but again, the Tinkerers could be different. Who knows that we think of them as colorful and
an aroma and culture,
and who knows what they'll be like. They could be that, they could not be. We just don't know. But I think at the end of the day, that when it comes to this, we're going to get something that feels like the Wheel of Time. And the reason I can say that is because even we're already seeing just with the casting, the casting, has certainly stirred up a nest or whatever, but the casting is also, it's been done brilliantly, I think. And it's, even if it doesn't look like how, some of the characters, when I personally imagine them, they still, you can see just even from their headshots, you could absolutely see those characters playing those people. And maybe some more than others, and that's okay. But I think we're going to get a show that feels like Wheel of Time, and that I think is what the most important thing is to me, is that it's compelling, that it's visually cool, and that it hits on the themes, and it feels like what.
Yeah. I mean, we have a fan that's writing it, so like Ray, having heard Rafe respond to people's questions and hearing just the wording that he uses in some of his responses, like the Twitter AMA he did, I'm confident in what we're going to get from someone who feels maybe not as passionately as some of us, but pretty darn close.
Well, and Rafe has probably read the books more closely than anyone since Brandon Sanderson. I think he knows what he's doing. And definitely we're going to be seeing Rafe Judkins' version of the Wheel of Time, but we also got Peter Jackson's version of the Lord of the Rings, and that turned out pretty good, I'd say. Yeah. So I think if we compare it that way, I think we're in good hands.
I think that the ace up our sleeve, and I mean the fandom sleeve, is and the sleeve here is Sarah Nakamura. And Sarah is, for those who don't know, she is a passionate fan of the books, lifelong fan. She's been to, she's done the DragonCons and everything else. She's a friend of mine and someone that, I've worked with, collaborated with before a bit, but she is a story consultant for them, and I suspect strongly that her role is a little bit understated. I think that what she's bringing to the table in there is that little bit of extra insight and expertise in the franchise that is critically valuable for the people who are writing it, directing it, acting it, producing it, and everything else. And I think that is something that's a fantastic testament to Rafe and his team, that they have brought her on to be in some way advocate for us, the diehard fans, right? To advocate for us, to advocate for Robert Jordan in a way, for that accuracy. I can only imagine that Rafe has probably got dozens and dozens of people giving him notes on this. The executives and Harriet and Brandon probably. And we know Brandon, probably Harriet, I would imagine. There's a lot of people giving in feedback to him and his team and his writers on this, and that's great. There's a lot at stake and there's a lot of people involved, or whatever. But I love that there is also Sarah, who, as we understand it, was on set for a lot of the filming, if not all of the filming. She's in the writing room, and that's a critical and key point. So I think that having her there, she's doing right by us.
Essentially, she's like the fan perspective for us on the show. She's the book fan perspective feedback person on the show for people that don't know what she's doing. That's essentially what she's doing. That's how I describe it. And that's
sort
how
of our advocate on the set.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. The fact that Amazon and Rafe wanted someone like that on the show shows that they care, and they're going to try to make something that's close to what the fans love.
Well, and even though Amazon has been very close with information and giving things out, the way that they've communicated with us and the way that they've tried to engage the fandom shows of respect. That they're doing things to keep us engaged. They're doing things to like they have the reread of the Eye of the World that they were doing on Twitter recently and things like that. Like that, so they're not like saying, "Hey, here's everything we're doing. Here's a minute-to-minute update," but they're also they're just doing little things that make me think, okay, they respect us as a fandom and they want us to be supportive and interested in the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've had the privilege to talk to Amazon and some of their publicity and marketing people about it, and they get it. They know that they've got a passionate fandom on their hands, and it's I think it's their desire to engage with us and to build that relationship over time. And it's like that, that's all happening in a good way. When Rafe was on a panel recently where he Zoom bombed and showed up on a panel and talked, one of the things that he said that I really appreciate, I think we all did, was he said that he's fully aware of this fandom that's out there, and he said that the cast and the crew are aware of it too, and that they appreciated our support. They appreciated our passion, and so they're going into this wide open about the fandom that they have here, and that can become, even if ultimately our fandom in terms of the raw numbers, even if everyone who has read The Wheel of Time ever tunes in for that first episode or ever, that's still a smaller fraction of the size of the audience that Amazon Prime is going to pull in and it's going to see this show, right?
100%.
And so but they understand clearly that these we the passionate Wheel of Time fans, the Twitter of Time, hashtag Twitter of Time, and the YouTubers and everyone else, that collectively, anyone, whether it's you watching this on this panel, or if it's you're commenting on Facebook or on the DragonCon forums, or if you're role playing or whatever it is, whatever this fandom means to you, we collectively, our foundation upon which that they can build to share and spread this this franchise and this story, this epic that we all love, to far more people.
Well, and how many times have you wanted to go check out a comic book a day adaptation or a book adaptation of something, and you hear, oh, wait a second, the fans didn't like it, and that just turns you off of the whole thing. That to me is like, it's part of the marketing, right? Is that the fans say, yes, this is good. Yes, we love this. We support it. So I think that's kind of the perspective that Amazon has when they're engaging the fan base.
Yeah, they're not stupid. They see what didn't work with things that have came out. So they're like, even if it's not a completely altruistic point of view from them, that they're doing it because they know, like, if they don't, it will fail miserably. Either way, they're not dumb. They're going to do it. But on the flip side of that, I do think that a lot of the people that are working on the show actually do care. So.
All right. So there's a question in the chat that is related to some of our previous discussion. Dana Lou wanted to know, what scene do we think absolutely must be in season 1? Or what scene do you think would be just critical to have in the show in general?
You want to go first, Jason?
Critical from the show, critical to the story. It's probably the easy answer. I think it's the right answer is Winter Night, and we know that's going to be there, because that's what kicks it all off. But if I were to go beyond Winter Night, I think we need again, it's all early stuff. It's stuff that's early in the story. But I think we need that scene with Rand on the road with Tam, and I'm not just saying those because we know the steps are in it, but
which one? The beginning or when he's dragging him through the woods after Winter Night?
Both. That's a great point. I was thinking
that's what I was thinking. I was thinking of the second one.
The second one. Okay, yeah. So maybe. Yeah,
well, it's mainly the fever like dream that Tam was having, where he's like, where he revealed the way he reveals to Rand that he's essentially adopted and stuff. I feel like that was huge as a character building point for Rand, because he didn't have time to sit there and like moan and groan about it. He's getting chased by Murdrell and Trollocs. He has to just be like, okay, this is another thing I'll just shoulder while I drag you through the woods and you're dying. And that kind of builds the Rand that we get that ends up being too hard, and
I don't have time to deal with my emotions right now because I'm too busy getting murdered.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, and ultimately we get the bad version of Rand, kind of, because that's the person that he kind of forms around. He does change later, which is nice, but that's the formation of that version of Rand, I think, is right there when he's forced. That's the first time he's forced to do something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How about you, Tom? What would you say is just critical to keep in the show?
Oh man, there's so much. There's so many fun scenes that were great. I mean, they've already talked about that they may change Berlon, like the whole thing with that. So we might not get the scene where Perrin walks in on Moiraine when she's in her room and he's all bashful and blushing and stuff. I just really want to see his face. I want to see how he portrays that. But that's a fun scene. There's the scene when Bilal and Agenor step out into the eye of the world where Someshta is. Like, that's going to be crazy. Like, how are they going to depict them? Are they going to be in prosthetics where they look undead or however, because they were outside of the time stoppingness of the seal on the boar? I really want to. I want to see how they portray that whole end thing. Like, I don't like. They're obviously going to keep the scene in the eye of the world. Like, they can't cut that. But I hope that they really, the meaningfulness of when Someshta, the Green Man, kills. I can't remember. I think it's Bilal he kills, or I don't know. I think it's Bilal. Like, this is an ending. Like, he's the last Nym, and Loyal's feelings on that. I really hope they portray that, because it was portrayed well in the writing, and you could really feel it. So I just hope they do that really well in the visually in the scene.
I'm tripping on the word, what's critical, right? And when I think critical, maybe it's the writer in me, when I think critical, I think like, what is essential to the story? Yeah. There's tons of scenes I would love to see. I would love to see the scene with, Min having her visions around Rand. We know she's cast. She's clearly in the first season. I can't imagine them having a scene without Min, with Min, but without her vision. So I think that'll happen, but I don't think that's essential to the story. I think what's essential is, Rand, learning from Tam, like you said, in the fever dream, that, hearing Tam say that, there's a baby found in the mountain. I think that's, kind of an essential thing. I think it's essential that we see Perrin connecting with wolves. I think it's essential we see Matt stealing the dagger when they're in Shadar Logoth. I think it's essential for Moiraine to say at some point in the season, doesn't have to be in a specific scene, but has to be somewhere where Moiraine says, like, I am willing to kill you if it means, that it would stop the Dark One. And, that wasn't her exact, but the sentiment she looks at each of those three boys. Yeah. And she says, I'm willing to kill you, and know this, through my 3 oaths, that it's true, kind of thing.
Yeah.
One of my all-time favorite scenes in the entire series is when Rand is standing in front of the Queen of Andor, in front of Morgase, and Elaida is there, and the Queen says, speak clearly, Elaida, tell me what your vision is. And she says, from this day forth, the world marches toward destruction. And then she leans in and whispers in Rand's ear, and this man is the heart of it, so that only he can hear that. And that's one of my favorite scenes in there. But again, I back up and I think, is that critical to the series? Like, maybe, but I don't know. And we've already said, at least I've already said, that there's no sacred cows here. So I don't know. That might not be a scene we get, or maybe it's something that we see later on. We haven't had any Elaida casting, so who knows what's up with Elaida, and yeah. So, but those
I guess technically they could just cut the whole Elaida thing, like having her be so pivotal in it, like they'll need her to if they do the split in the tower and all that stuff, but like,
well, Elaida is essential to the franchise. It's a matter of whether or not she's essential to season 1. So she might be. Maybe she's someone that they reserve for a later season.
That's what I meant.
There is speculation that we won't see the Trakans or Elaida until season 2.
Yeah,
and
maybe.
Already at Tar Valon, and we meet them when Egwene meets them.
Yeah,
there's already so many main characters we're trying to introduce.
Yeah. Personally, a scene that my favorite scene in the entire series is when Ingtar reveals to Rand. I don't want to say exactly what happens, but in the end of book 2,
that's a book 2 thing. Yeah,
it's a book 2 thing. Yeah, so like that's one of my favorite scenes in the entire series, is that whole end part of when
Ingtar and Hurin are, those two characters, her and the Sniffer, if you guys remember, those two characters, just they shine so brightly in book 2. And
they're also easily cut. Their stories are easily cut if they need to.
Well, no, I'm hoping that we get to see them, but they sometimes, a lot of these TV shows, you get these important actors that are around for a single season, and that's their thing. And so anyway, but I think Ingtar is pretty essential to the story of the Great Hunt. So if they decide that they are following the story of the Great Hunt, of an obsessive hunt for this horn and the dagger and all that kind of stuff, which seems to me like they would, obviously, but who knows? I mean, who knows? We're trying to condense 14 massive books, right? But if they were to keep it, I think Ingtar's the most interesting character, besides the main characters in that segment. So I think you keep him around. But
his arc is really interesting. He has a full arc, he has a great, and he also, we're going to be, I'm pretty sure, we're going to meet Dark Friends, in season 1, especially we've got all these Aes Sedai being cast, and, some of them are evil and everything. So it'd be interesting to see, a dark friend, a male dark friend, besides Pat and Fane, So I think they're definitely going to play. The Aes Sedai are going to play a more pivotal role from the get go. Like, we're going to get more on the Aes Sedai and Tar Valon than we got in book 1 in the show, because they, I mean, speaking from a marketing, they've cast for it, but speaking from a marketing standpoint, they want people to care about Ajas and stuff like that. They want people to go, I'm in the blue Aja and I'm in the green Aja, and
I mean,
and
that might be a nice
Amazon. What Aja are you on the official show webpage?
Yeah, they want that. They want to be able to do that.
Yeah, but they want to do that, and I'm sure they will. But I don't think that's not in the writing room. They're not thinking about what's going to drive traffic to our website.
No, but they
what app
how
do
we
make
introduce
what
them?
TikTok hashtag we make off of this? But but I do think that it goes back to high level when you're adapting something. You take a step back and you ask yourself, what are the most interesting things about the Wheel of Time? What makes the Wheel of Time separate from other franchises? What sets it apart from other things that are on the air, or from everything? And one of the answers is the White Tower and the, like I said, the Ajas and the Aes Sedai. That's what makes it unique. I mean, that in the Vanity Fair, when they announced the thing to the world, when they announced the show, and you mentioned that the Vanity Fair article, which was the official press release that went out to announce everything. I don't remember exactly, but sentence 1 or 2 was in a world dominated by where only women can use magic, which is an oversimplification, but that's that's one of the angles that they're clearly going for. So yeah, they're going to build up that White Tower and all of its intrigue, and all of its intrigue includes the Ajas and the secret Black Aja. That's good stuff.
Yeah, it is. I hope we get more on the Black Aja in season 1 too, which is again another thing that I think they can do with information from New Spring, because there's a lot of Black Aja in that. So
yeah, it's true. Yeah.
All right, so I have a question for y'all. Like, one of the things that's really nice about the Wheel of Time is that it's a book series I can share with my students. I teach middle school. I started reading it when I was in middle school. Me and my mom read the first couple books together. So it is a book that I'm comfortable saying is like a PG-13 series. What rating do you think the TV show is going to have? Do you think they're going to keep with that like nice PG-13, I can watch this with my older tweens, or are they going to try to make it more adult and gritty like Game of Thrones?
I mean, Robert Jordan did a great job of still keeping in the adult themes, but in the background, where like as an adult reading the series, you can pick up on the stuff that is obviously probably happening in the background of stuff. Even just the violence, the gore that would happen in fights. They describe it in terms that aren't direct, like they don't say the Trolloc cut this person in half or whatever, but they talk about the cookpox and stuff, and then you have to infer from that. And he really left it up to our own brains to imagine how those things happened, which it's always worse when you leave it up to the interpreter of the reader to interpret it.
There's like a scene where Lanfear like straight up skins a dude, and you don't see the whole thing. You just see her like waving like something around, and then Rand's like, "Oh God, that's someone's skin," and that's it.
Yep. So I think we'll get more of. I think we'll see a PG-13 rating for it. I think they can go back and forth. Maybe no, I don't know. I think they'd probably just have an overall PG-13. But PG-13 now is a lot different than PG-13 when we were 13. Like they've evolved that to be a lot more. There's they curse on daytime television now, so it's like it's just a different time. I don't think they're going to get gory and as sexually explicit as Game of Thrones was. It's just that was the theme of Game of Thrones in the books too, and that's just not.
Yeah, well, and Game of Thrones, the TV show, being that explicitly violent and gory, definitely fit with the aesthetic of the books. And there's definitely some points where I'm like, oh yeah, like as nasty as the TV show was, the books were much nastier.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
How about you, Jason? What are your thoughts about how the show's going to be rated?
I think I agree that it won't be Game of Thrones in terms of the explicit adult content, and I don't know about the violence, but I think it's going to. I am bracing myself for it to be not PG-13, to have it be more adult, more violent than the books. But until we see something, we just don't know. But it's I don't think that this is going to be something where Rand and Matt Aaron are blushing if they see a calf or I don't think that Elaine's going to fan herself if she sees Rand's calf. I think it's going to be I suspect that we'll probably see a lot of shirtless people, male and female, is my suspicion, and we'll just have to see. I just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we do know that they did hire, and I don't remember the title of the person, but it's a new thing that they started doing for shows that have sex scenes. It's like a coach, like an intimacy coordinator,
an intimacy director, I think is what the title. And that's a great point. And that was something that wasn't really widely reported, but there were some reports about it. So for those unfamiliar, it's just like we were saying, Tom, that a lot of TV shows bring on a specific person to come on and to be on set during sex scenes, to help direct that and have that scene portrayed in a appropriate manner. So you can still have the sex scenes and everything, but making sure that doesn't come across as exploitive, more importantly, also making sure that the actors are comfortable on screen, doing whatever they have to do, making sure there's so many reasons to have someone like that. And as a filmmaker myself, years ago, I made a documentary that was about that focused on date rape, and so this was something that I had to shoot some scenes. It wasn't naked people on set, but that was something that I remember thinking, like, looking back on that, I could absolutely see the value of having someone like that on set. And I think I can't remember where the source was, but it seemed like that it was a legit thing that the show had hired someone to do that. And again, that kind of illustrates that if there's a need for that, it's going to be more than just two people kissing and sinking off the side of the screen and fading to black and pan away to the curtains blowing. I think we're going to see more than that. That doesn't mean that we're going to necessarily see a character getting oral sex like Tyrion Lannister or whatever. But again, there are no sacred cows here, people. Like this is an adaptation, and it might happen. Maybe we will see Matt getting it on. Maybe we will see whoever. We don't know. But I think we're going to find out pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, it's a human thing that happens too. So it's not like I'm not like nixing it, saying like it's a bad idea or like I wouldn't like it, because it's human. Like people do that. That's what happens. And Matt is a little bit of a horn dog, so like that's not so far out of character.
All right. So we have some questions in the chat about casting. So one of the questions is, what is your dream casting for characters that haven't been cast yet? And someone else wanted to know if Billy Zane can be asked to reprise his role as Ishmael.
I hope they don't ask him to play Ishmael. I think that I hope they stick with for the big people like that they stick with relative unknowns that are good, that fit the role. But they could do Bill, not to get too spoilery on Ishmael, but we know he changes a little bit, so they could have him maybe as like a cameo, be one version,
like original Ishmael, and then they cast somebody else as like new Coke Ishmael.
Yeah, exactly.
There's at least 3 or 4 different iterations of that character throughout the series, right? But
personally, I hope Henry Cavill is somehow involved, because I know he's a fan. Because like I've seen in a lot of his like interviews, he's mentioned the Wheel of Time like way before it was a thing, like before they were making it, like before Amazon or Sony had it. He mentioned like they always ask him, are you really a nerd? Like, what are you a nerd about? Like when he's on like talk shows and stuff. And one of the things he mentioned often was The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan, is like a book series that he really loved. So it would be cool if he just had like, Daniel Craig is the stormtrooper in that Star Wars movie. Like if he was just like a Trolloc or something funny like that.
Ashimon in the background.
Yeah, with that has like prosthetics on his face, so you have no idea it's him, or something cool like that.
Yeah, and I kind of hope like if they do, either have him a cameo role, that'd be kind of fun for him and everything. And but I wouldn't want him to play a main character, especially in the earlier seasons, because a guy like Henry, literally, Superman, he's going to command a lot of budget, and I'd rather that budget go to someone who's really talented, who isn't going to, earn, you know, the millions and millions that he would or whatever, and we can put that toward production and costumes and everything else. But
Yeah.
you know, maybe for the, you know, the final season, you know, maybe he's Morden, where we're late in the game, where, you know, it's a huge hit TV show and whatever, you know, he could play Morden. And to the original question, yeah, to the original question, like I've kind of curiously said, I don't follow, you know, I'm just not up on as much of the you know, the dream casting as a lot of other people do. And I think that's so wonderful that so many people do that. There's so many great, you know, blogs and Facebook channels and or groups and such that speculate on those things. And every time someone posts something, I see a lot of them. It's like, oh, that would be really cool, and I get all excited, you know, for the possibility of it. But I'm, rather than a specific actor or actress that I'm excited to see, I'm just especially interested to see like who they are going to have for the Forsaken. You know, everyone, you know, wants to know who they're going to cast for Lanfear. But for me, the ultimate one that I can't wait to see they cast is Luce Theron. And I think that that's a, you know, I think that'd be really cool. You know, I think that would be that would be one role where, again, if I were, you know, in the talking to the casting directors or the producers, whatever, you know, I'd recommend, like, that's the kind of person where you go and you get a star to play Luce there, and you know, and you know, because you can have them
pick cameo.
Yep.
Or not even 5 second, but just, you know, it's someone that he's going to be there for most of the rest of the show, right?
Yeah.
And you can have him have so much fun with the way that you depict them. And I'm not talking about flashbacks, but, you know, I know there's another debate about this, we probably don't have time, but there's some debate as to, well, maybe have Luce Theron be a physical actor on set, whispering in Rand's ear that no one else sees. You know, that's one way to kind of portray it. Some people don't like that approach, but, you know, if you do decide to do that, if you do have him on set whispering, you know, in Rand's ear and everything, it would kind of be cool if that were, you know, put a little bit of budget in and get a big name.
That when they did the Battlestar Galactica reboot 10 years ago.
Right, that's exactly, and that was done really well.
Really well done. Like you
That's
all
a great...
Baltar was hallucinating, or was he? But he would like be arguing with like imaginary people in his head, and like people would just think he was nuts, but it was fine because we were all nuts, and it was very well.
But just don't have Rand have sex with him then, like in Battlestar Galactica.
That was weird.
So that was weird. Yeah. Fortunately, I mean, again, all bets are off, right?
Yeah. Someone, I got excited before because someone said that Henry Cavill should play Bayard, so that's why I got excited before.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, we are getting close on time, but I do have one more question from the chat. Someone wanted to know, when do we think we might see a trailer, and what might be in that trailer?
I don't know when we're going to see a trailer, but for sure, we're going to see channeling. We're probably going to see some flashes, if not full-on shots of Shadow Spawn, because those are the two sexy things from the Wheel of Time. For people that have never seen the Wheel of Time, know nothing. If you see a Trollocs face for the first time, or a couple of different Trollocs faces, you're going to be like, what the heck is that? I want to see more of that.
And they have to have something in the trailer that you haven't seen before. And they have to have something that looks different than Game of Thrones, right?
Exactly, yeah. And the Trollocs are perfect because there's nothing like that in Game of Thrones. So if you see a 7 or 9 foot monster with cow feet and a wolf head and human hands holding a sword wearing black chainmail armor, you're going to be like, what the heck is that thing? I want to see more of that. And that's nothing like Game of Thrones. Like, we don't see any kind of supernatural quote unquote, like, you know, is the best way to describe it, things in Game of Thrones for a while, except for like a couple of shots of White Walkers in the beginning and then seasons of nothing, you know. So to throw those right in the beginning would be good. And channeling, because it's another thing that we hardly see any magic in Game of Thrones, and the Wheel of Time, you know, is full of it. So how they're going to depict that, I don't know, but I trust that it'll be good.
So how about you, Jason? What do you think would be in a trailer?
They all go back to, you know, again, it's the filmmaker brain in me, but you think to yourself, you know, like, you know, what's going to get people hyped for this beyond just the fans, right? And so, Tom, you're saying the right things, that, you know, you're looking for something that's going to make it stand out in a unique way. And so you ask yourself, what are the big awesome things about this show that stand out? And so I would imagine we are going to see Moraine tear it up with the One Power a little bit, you know,
cutting walls of fire, please.
Whatever. And we might not even see the effect, we might just see her spinning weaves around her, and and that might be sufficient to get our juices flowing. And maybe it's only a hint, but we'll see it. We'll see something, right? But I think you're probably the trailer's gonna, we'll see, a little bit of the tours, we'll see the main characters and, kind of get the gist of the plot. I imagine that will, they'll show something with maybe not literally the White Tower, but we'll probably see some cool stuff from, Tarvalon, just because of the visual imagery, architecture, or the tower, or inside the tower. I mean, they've got all this beautiful stuff. Why not show it off to market it, right? I imagine we'll probably see something with Logain, because if we're going to get expanded Logain, then that's a really cool way to show off some really powerful high-end channeling, channeling from a false dragon.
Yeah.
Like
in a war setting.
The Eyes to Die. Yeah.
Maybe in a war setting, or whatever. But I think we'll see something like that. So yeah, again, if you're wondering that question, think of put yourself in put on your marketing hat, right? You suddenly, for a few minutes are, the head of marketing at Amazon. You've got this show. What would you show off? What are the big things that really make Wheel of Time stand out? And maybe we'll see some of the the humor, and we'll see some of the Matt cracking a joke or whatever, just to kind of lighten
releasing
up.
badgers or something, maybe.
Yeah, who knows?
I mean, the
Who
badgers
knows?
whole thing, like,
Yeah.
and the cop.
There's your essential. There, going to that earlier question, there is your essential scene that must be in the Wheel of Time, is Matt setting a badger loose on the green.
Yeah.
If that isn't in there, I'm tapping out. So,
Right in episode 1.
Put it
in the
in,
first
Rafe,
20
put it
minutes,
in.
I'm done. No badgers.
Right? Yeah.
Badgers or go home.
So, yeah.
All right, I have one last question for you guys, because we're getting really close on time. When it comes to releasing the show, should we release all at once the way that Netflix does, or should it be one episode at a time like HBO does? There are pluses and minuses to either approach. What do you guys think?
Personally, I want to see episodic releases week to week, because it allows time for people to digest the information, to talk about it, to speculate. If you release everything all at once, then it's just like it's a one and done. And instead of speculating and what's going to happen next week, or what's going to happen with this, you have the entire show.
You want those water cooler moments.
Yeah, exactly. And the show will almost market itself with stuff like that. Also, with the level of budget for the show, if it's just like drop it down on the table and it's done, then people are going to instantly be like, oh, what's next? When are we getting the next one? When are we getting the next? This was an X amount of hundreds of millions of dollars show to produce, and they gave it to you and you watched it in 14 hours. That's or however many hours. That's your fault. It still takes time to produce that, so it'll give them some time if they. I personally want to see episodic releases. Yeah, exactly. I personally want to see episodic week to week releases.
How about you, Jason? What's your preference?
My personal preference is I'm in alignment with Tom. It'd be great to, as just a fan, I want to see it, weekly episodes. Maybe do what they're doing right now with The Boys season 2 on Amazon Prime, which is drop the first couple episodes and then go weekly after that. I think that's kind of cool. Ultimately, though, what I want the plan that's going to get the most attention on the show, to get the most people on it. And sometimes maybe, I'm not the executive, whatever, but maybe what that is to do a Netflix thing where you drop the whole thing and you get the whole country or in all regions, where you get everyone talking about it intently for a week. And that intense, super intense week or two, for what I'm not talking about for fans like you and I, people coming to JordanCon and and everything else, or even fans of the books. I'm talking about everyone, from your uncles to your cousins who have never read it, never read or whatever, like all of these these people who don't know, but to have it become a national conversation, or a worldwide conversation, international conversation,
whatever, a big event.
Yeah. And so maybe it takes to have this thing drop, to have it be amazing, to have it, everyone binge it, and it's this biggest thing for a couple weeks, whatever, and then it suddenly drops off when the next show comes out, and everyone moves on to that, and the people left behind are left to continue speculating at our us and the fans and all the new people who have become super fans as a result of being exposed to through the TV show. So that's I know that, those are probably the kinds of things that they're weighing as to these decisions. But yeah, clearly, as a fan, I want to stretch this thing out, and I look forward to the hype and to speculating in between episodes. And Robert Jordan was so good about seeding ideas early in the story that pay off way later, books and books later. And I think that that's one of the things that makes unique. It's one of the things that makes the Wheel of Time unique, is how well he planted those ideas and all the speculation. And I would imagine that the filmmakers, I mean, they certainly know that, and I imagine they would kind of lean in that bit. So I'm hoping that we can, episode to episode, there's some speculation, and then season to season, there's some speculation, even for the diehards, even for people we know how it all ends. I'm hoping that we get that ability to, wonder as to, hey, they changed this, so what does that mean for what could happen?
Yeah, we were
that's
talking
kind of
about
fun.
in yesterday's panel about how we want to be surprised by the TV show. We don't want it to be like checking off boxes as we go on. Like,
Exactly.
I want to be
Exactly.
surprised and delighted.
Me too.
Yeah, that's a great point. So everything. So there's both ways to it, but ultimately I think that if a big old drop was going to get us way more viewership and way more attention on it, and therefore bigger chance of it to have further seasons, and everything, then let's do that.
Yeah.
I'm all for whatever can get us to the end, so we can get a high quality adaptation of everything from the Eye of the World through A Memory of Light.
Samesies.
That's what I'm for.
All right, so I am being told that we are out of time. Do you guys have any final thoughts about what you would like to see from the TV show?
Yeah, high quality. A lot of people like to compare it, like, hey, this is going to be just another Legend of the Seeker or whatever. And to all those people, I say that's great. And there's a lot of talented people that were involved in those shows, even if they didn't land for you. But I encourage you to look at the numbers for the budget, look at the caliber of the people involved. Again, not knocking anyone, because there's a lot of great talent on those other shows, both directors and on-screen talent. But overall, look at the caliber, the attention. Remember that we've got that ace up our sleeve that we talked about before. We have a very special, we have lots of it. Yeah, Brandon's involved too. Rafe is involved, and Sarah's involved. I mean, these are all good things that are happening. And last thing, just to plug, please go on to whatever your favorite social media is and search on Wheel of Time content, whether that is Dragamount doing, we've got YouTube channels, we've got Twitter, we've got Facebook, we are all over the place, but not just Dragamount. Please check out, there are so many new podcasts and YouTubers who are creating great content. Twitter people, look for a hashtag Twitter of Time on Twitter, look for these new content creators, check them out. Check out their content. They have a wonderful voice, and we need to hear more from them, often. So go out and find more Wheel of Time content, and let's let Amazon know through our engagement, how much this series means to us and how much they should continue to invest in it.
All right, and how about you, Tom? What are your final thoughts for our audience?
I echo everything Jason just said about the Wheel of Time content creators. Just go out and search, because there's so many, and there are so many really good ones. Personally, something that I really hope as a fan to see in the show is point of views from channeling. Like it's something that I'm personally excited about, because if you're a man watching another man channel, and you can channel, you could see it, but someone who can't channel can't see it. So I hope they do like a lot of point of view switching between stuff like that. That's something I'm excited about, to see Egwene watching Maureen weave things versus Rand watching Maureen weave things, and then watching Maureen from her point of view weaving things would be a fun camera trick to go between point of views while channelers are casting. That's from a fan, that's something I want to see. But I echo everything Jason just said for the content creators for Wheel of Time. Just go out and check everybody out, because everyone's amazing. And if we sat here and named them all, we'd need another hour.
Yeah, that is definitely a topic for a future panel, is like, who are the Wheel of Time content creators, and who are the good ones we should be checking out, and who are the ones we don't know about yet that we should check out.
Yeah.
But anyways, we are actually a few minutes over time, so I do want to cut it off now. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon, guys. This has been a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. So we're going to wave goodbye now. They're going to cut us off, and then we got to sit here and look pretty until they actually stop streaming, because there's a little bit of a lag. So, just smile, look pretty.
I got the sun coming in. It's like,
Yeah. There was a baby deer that walked by yesterday while I was doing the other panel, and then today there was like a bunch of squirrels playing, and like I got to stop doing this in front of a window.